Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. You know we love political drama, right? Well, buckle up, because today we're going deep into a recent Trump rally at Madison Square Garden.
Ooh, yeah.
Now, Trump called it the greatest evening anyone has ever seen politically.
Interesting.
But the Daily Beast, the article we're diving into today,
Okay.
they painted a very different picture, calling it a night of race hate. So let's break this down and see what went down at this rally.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so first things first, what exactly went down at this rally at Madison Square Garden?
Well, Trump's really trying to control the narrative here, all positivity and celebration. But
Yeah.
when you look closer, like really listen to some of the things that were said at this rally, there are some moments that really make you step back.
Yeah, for sure. And one of those moments that kind of stands out is comedian Tony Hinchcliffe.
Oh, yeah.
He was like a warm-up act for Trump, right?
Right.
And he makes these comments about Puerto Rico, calling it a floating island of garbage. Not exactly a warm welcome.
No, not at all. I mean, that's pretty inflammatory rhetoric,
Yeah.
And it raises a big question because Trump has said many times he's done more for Puerto Rico than any other president.
Right.
So how does he respond to this?
Well, it's fascinating because initially his campaign tried to distance themselves from Hinchcliffe's comments, but then Trump himself downplayed the situation, saying he didn't even know who Hinchcliffe was. It's like trying to have it both ways,
Yeah, that's what makes it so interesting, right? Like, is he distancing himself? Is he downplaying it? Like, what's going on? It seems like maybe he's trying to, speak to different audiences at the same time.
Exactly. And it gets even more interesting because while he was publicly downplaying the Hinchcliffe thing, his campaign was quietly trying to smooth things over. They featured Puerto Rico's Republican shadow senator, Zoraida Buxo,
Oh, wow.
at a subsequent rally in Pennsylvania.
Okay, so almost like damage control.
Yeah, like a little bit of damage control.
Yeah,
Trying to counter that negativity from MSG.
right. Right, but it also raises questions about consistency, right?
Yeah.
Is he truly standing by Hinchcliffe, or is he just trying to, kind of contain the fallout?
Yeah. And then, to add another layer to this whole thing, Trump actually met a supporter from Puerto Rico at that Pennsylvania rally
Oh, wow.
and told her, Puerto Rico stands behind you and Puerto Rico loves you.
So what is the strategy here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is this genuine support for the Puerto Rican community, or is this a calculated move to mitigate the damage from the previous comment?
Right. What's going on beneath the surface? I don't know. But one thing's for sure, it creates this sense of dissonance.
Definitely.
On one hand, you have Trump celebrating this rally as a love fest.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you have this blatant example of what seems to be, hateful rhetoric that's directed at Puerto Ricans.
Absolutely. It really forces us to ask, is Trump truly condemning this kind of language, or is he willing to tolerate it as long as it, serves his political goals?
Right. And that's a big question that we're going to unpack further when we come back.
Absolutely.
Just stay tuned.
This whole thing with Hinchcliffe, it really kind of raises a bigger question about some of the other speakers at the rally.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't just him who was saying some pretty divisive and pretty offensive things.
Oh, absolutely. There were definitely other speakers who kind of pushed the boundaries,
Yeah.
Like Tucker Carlson, for example. He took aim at Kamala Harris's racial identity.
Oh, wow.
And then there was this speaker who was introduced as Trump's childhood friend.
Okay.
Went on a whole rant about, Harris even called her the Antichrist.
It's such a contrast,
Yeah.
right? Trump's talking about a love fest, but then you have this really harsh language that's being used.
Yeah, it's like this tale of two rallies,
Yeah.
Trump's positive spin,
Right.
and then these other speakers using this very divisive rhetoric that seems to contradict that whole idea.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, what is the message here? What's the intent?
Right.
Is it unity, or is it about appealing to a very specific base, even if that means resorting to inflammatory rhetoric?
Right. And it's not just the rally itself.
Yeah.
Later on, Trump continued to downplay Hinchcliffe's comments in an interview with Sean Hannity.
Really?
Yeah, he said that he wished the comedian wasn't there.
Okay.
But then he immediately added that he didn't think the comments were a big deal.
That's interesting. So he's saying that it was inappropriate, but also not a big deal. Like, where does he really stand?
Right.
Is he willing to actually come out and condemn racism unequivocally?
Exactly. And it adds this whole layer of complexity to the entire situation.
Yeah.
Because you have Trump celebrating this rally as a success, but then you have these really disturbing elements that you can't ignore.
It's like a puzzle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what it all means and what it says about his strategy.
Right. It really makes you think about the role of language in politics.
Absolutely.
Could a politician truly distance themselves from the words of people that speak at their events?
That's a really tough question.
Yeah.
On the one hand, they can't control everything that's said.
Right.
But they do set the tone. Right.
They have a responsibility to address when hateful rhetoric is used.
It's such a delicate balance.
Yeah.
And it seems like this rally has really sparked a lot of debate about whether he, struck that balance effectively.
It's a conversation that we need to keep having.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond this one rally. This is about the broader political landscape and the kind of discourse that we're seeing in our country.
It feels like things have become so polarized.
Yeah.
Like it's all about winning no matter what.
That's a really valid concern.
Yeah.
It seems like the line between acceptable and unacceptable behavior has become increasingly blurred.
Yeah, we're seeing more personal attacks.
Yeah.
More name-calling. And less focus on actual issues.
And social media is definitely amplifying all of this.
Yeah.
It's just so easy to spread misinformation, to attack people online without any real consequences.
Right, and it creates this culture of impunity where people feel like they can say anything they want.
Yeah.
Regardless of how hurtful it is, how damaging it might be.
And unfortunately, some politicians are taking cues from this.
And using those same tactics in their own campaigns
Right.
to rile up their base, to score points against their
So
opponent.
it's like a race to the bottom. And in the end, it's the American people who lose out.
We're left with a political system that can't seem to function
Right.
and that struggles to address the real challenges that are facing our nation.
So where do we go from here?
Right.
How do we break out of this cycle of negativity? How do we get back to a place where we can have, respectful and productive conversations about the issues?
It's a big challenge.
Yeah.
But I think it starts with each of us taking responsibility for our own words and actions.
Being mindful of the language that we use.
Yeah.
Being willing to listen to different perspectives.
Exactly, even if we disagree with them.
Right. We need to hold our leaders accountable for their behavior.
Absolutely.
And start treating each other with more respect, even when we disagree.
It's about remembering that words have power.
Yeah.
They can have a real impact on people's lives. And, we need to foster a culture of empathy and understanding if we want to bridge the divides in our society.
It's a long road.
Yeah.
But I think it's a journey worth taking.
Absolutely.
So before we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
we talked a lot about the negative side of things.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, could there be any strategic advantages for Trump in allowing this kind of rhetoric at his rally?
That's a good question. It's easy to focus on the downsides, but there's always more than one side to every story.
Right. I mean, is it possible that this kind of divisive language, while controversial, actually helps him connect with a certain segment of voters?
Yeah, there's this idea in political communication called playing to the base.
Okay.
And it suggests that sometimes instead of trying to appeal to the widest possible audience,
Right.
politicians might actually benefit from focusing on energizing their core supporters,
Okay.
even if it alienates others.
So by allowing these speakers to voice these very controversial opinions,
Yeah.
he might actually be solidifying his support among those who already agree with him.
Exactly. It's a way of creating a sense of us versus them,
Right.
reinforcing this idea that he and his supporters are fighting against a common enemy.
It's a risky strategy for sure.
Oh, yeah.
It could backfire if it alienates moderate voters
Right.
or
Uh-huh.
reinforces those negative perceptions.
It's a gamble,
Yeah.
and we'll have to see if it pays off.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how this whole situation plays out in the long run. Will it energize his base enough to outweigh any potential negative consequences?
Yeah.
I guess only the election results will tell.
Politics is a complex game
Yep.
with a lot of moving parts,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes the most effective strategies are the ones that are the most controversial.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive.
It really has.
I think we've uncovered some really insightful points
Definitely.
about the dynamics at play in this rally and the broader political landscape.
It's been great exploring these complexities with you.
So we've been talking about this Trump rally, at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And wow, there's a lot to unpack. It's like peeling back an onion.
Definitely.
Only this onion has like some strong opinions.
Some very strong opinions.
But here's the thing. We've talked about all this stuff.
Yeah.
But what do we actually do about the negativity
Right.
and the division that we're seeing in politics?
It's a question I think a lot of people are grappling with.
Right.
We see these rallies, these sound bites. We
Yeah.
see the back and forth online.
Yeah.
And, it feels like this loop of outrage. and it can feel very overwhelming.
It can feel like we're helpless.
Mm.
So what can we do? Like, where do we even begin?
Well, it might sound simple, but it starts with each of us.
Okay.
Think about how you engage in political discussions,
Uh-huh.
online or offline. Are you adding fuel to the fire?
Right.
Or are you trying to actually bridge the gap?
Right, you're right. It's like we can't expect the politicians to change if we're all just like yelling at each other in the comment section all the time. But how do we, encourage other people to do the same? Because it seems like everybody's just waiting to be offended these days.
It's about leading by example.
Okay.
When you encounter that kind of aggressive rhetoric, the name calling, the personal attacks,
Yeah.
think about how you respond. Can you calmly, point out flaws in someone's argument or maybe offer a different perspective?
Yeah.
Sometimes, just asking someone to back up their claims with actual evidence can help de-escalate things.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I like that. It's about raising the bar for the conversation.
Exactly.
But what about our leaders?
Mm-hmm.
How do we hold them accountable?
Absolutely. I mean, they have the biggest platforms.
They do.
But we as citizens, we have more power than we think.
Okay.
Contact your representatives. Let them know how their rhetoric makes you feel.
Right.
Support organizations that are out there promoting civil discourse.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, your vote matters.
Right.
Support candidates that are aligned with your values.
Yeah. But sometimes contacting my representatives, it feels like the bare minimum. What can we do to really make a difference?
Get involved locally.
All right.
Attend those town hall meetings,
Yeah.
Write letters to the editor, talk to your neighbors about the issues that matter to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's about bringing these big political conversations down to a human level.
I like that. Taking it beyond the screen and into real life. It's like instead of building walls, we're building bridges.
Exactly. And remember, change takes time.
Yeah.
Don't get discouraged if you don't see results immediately.
Okay.
This is about shifting the entire culture of political discourse.
Right.
And that's a long game.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly.
Well, this whole deep dive has been, kind of a wake-up call.
Yeah.
But also it's a reminder that we're not powerless.
Yeah.
We can actually be a part of the solution.
We absolutely can. We have a responsibility to stand up for what we believe in.
Yeah.
And work towards a society where everyone feels heard and respected, even when we disagree.
Yeah.
And that starts with, each of us making a choice to engage in thoughtful, respectful conversations.
So as we wrap up this episode, I have a question for you.
Okay.
What one action will you take today to promote a more positive and productive political environment?
That's a great question.
Let us know in the comments.
And remember, even small actions can have a ripple effect.
Yeah.
So by choosing to be kind, to be respectful, to be informed, we can all contribute to a better world.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
Absolutely.
If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell for more deep dives. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.